need to be. We don't want to hit the ground running with strategic planning January 1. We're already behind. We want to get to December 15th feeling like we can celebrate the year in all of its hardships and difficulties, celebrate how we persevered, how we're still viable, how we've worked hard, and now already have our plan in place for what Q1 is going to look like next year. And so this is meant to really help you think through 5 key areas to set you up for success for next year. And the 5 areas usually that we find, 1 or 2 of them you're already thinking about, and that's great. We want to celebrate that strength. But there's going to be a couple areas that you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm aware of it, but I haven't done much about it. We call those the mediocre areas. And then generally 1 out of the 5 is a blind spot. And it's something you haven't thought of, you didn't realize. And we want to make sure that by the time January comes around, you have clarity and you have alignment in the 5 areas that we're going to be walking through here in these next 45 minutes. But to get us started, I want you to do just a little bit of a gut check, an honest assessment of where you're at. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can even, if you're so bold, put your answer in the chat. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you to get the next year right? As you think about all the craziness of 2021, how important is it for you to get the next year right? Maybe you're like, man, I survived this year. I can't survive 2 years of this. I got to be at the top of my game, the head of my pack, the edge of my industry. I can't go 24 months. I can survive 12, but not 24 months of another year like this. So I've got to get it right. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to get this next season right? And then the follow-up question to that is, how confident do you feel in your plan for the next season? How confident do you feel in your plan for the next season? Have you kind of cinched up your Q4 goals and priorities? Have you started thinking about a word for next year, a strategy for next year? How confident are you? And so we're seeing a lot of kind of 5s and 6s there, it looks like, in the chat. And so this session is meant to increase that confidence, that we're going to give you a framework, we're going to give you a plan of attack that helps you increase that number so that you can say, hey, I want to be ahead of the game. I want to carve out a little bit of time each week, either by myself or with my team, so that when December comes around, I've already got the workings of a strategy in place for next year that I feel good about. Because you want to run the company, you don't want to let the company run you, and you want to own your strategy, not let the chaos of the world own you. And that's the difference between a proactive leader and a reactive leader. Too many leaders get insecure and nervous about external factors, and now all of a sudden you've given your power away, and you are beholden to COVID, you're beholden to the election, you're beholden to the unknown of what may be around the corner next year. And we all need to remember, the world makes way for the man who knows where they're going. And of course, that's a gender neutral man, right? The world makes way for the man or woman who knows where they're going. And that means that you've got to decide, hey, I might tweak and change along the way as things come at me, as things happen, and that's fine. But it's way better to tweak and change a proactive plan than to be constantly reacting and responding as chaos comes at you or confusion ensues. A lot of people that I'm working with are really thinking about 4 things, and these 4 things aren't necessarily bad things, but they're not the best things as it relates to all the challenges of this year. A lot of people are saying, how do I innovate using technology? Have I innovated enough from a CRM, social media, technology platform standpoint? A lot of people are saying, maybe I just need to work harder. Maybe I'm not putting in the hours. Maybe I don't have the right perspective, more podcasts, more books. Maybe that would get me ahead of the game. A lot of other people are saying, well, do I need to pivot? Is this my time to pivot into new ideas, new opportunities? You know, maybe all this going on means I need to innovate. Or I've got some CEOs that say, gosh, I think I'm just going to check out. Maybe I just need to wait it out. I'm tired. It's been an impossible 9 months. Maybe I just need to wait it out. And regardless of what your internal world is, the stories you're telling yourself in your head, my challenge is that maybe you need to prioritize your way out of it. And we're going to walk through these 5 priorities that hopefully give you that clarity and confidence to really think about where you're at and what you need to go after over the next year. And for the last 20 years, we've been developing these 5 priorities. At one time, it was 8 priorities. At one time, we tried 4. And about 15 years ago, we landed on 5 essential priorities. And most people can solve for personality, for strategic planning, for productization, and we miss this blind spot of making sure our priorities are aligned, clear, and well communicated with our teams or with our clients. And so I'm going to walk through these 5 priorities, why the order is so important, and then I'm going to go back through them and give you some handlebars or some advice based on COVID on how you can apply and contextualize them over this 4th quarter into 21. So what are the 5 priorities? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Right? Everything is built around these 5 capitals or these 5 priorities. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to zoom into this key concept over. I'm going to put it in the chat in just a second, but I want you to hang with me as I walk through them. Right? The first thing that everyone has to be clear on in this call is, what is your proactive why? Right? Why do you exist? What are you going after? What is the vision that nobody can take away from you? The reason why knowing your why is so important is because it gets you up in the morning regardless of external circumstances. All the great leaders have a why to compel them. You know, Steve Jobs says, I'm going to be the leader of innovation around technology for this century. That was his why. That's what got him up each and every day. Abraham Lincoln to unite a country. Martin Luther King to further unite a country. Right now, Bill and Melinda Gates, their why is 3 things that they're looking to eradicate: sanitation, clean water, and polio. If you've been following the Bill Gates Foundation, all of us need to have clarity around our organization's vision and values. And oftentimes it takes getting back to the reason you started doing what you're doing in the first place. On one level, we all said, yeah, I need a paycheck. I need to do something each and every day. I need to keep my lights on. But for many of us, there's a deeper reason we're into what we're into today. And it's the easiest thing to forget. One of the things I tell CEOs is that vision does one thing. Vision does one thing. It leaks. It leaks. We all forget. I work with so many leadership teams. I say, hey, I was on your company's website. What's your vision and values? Right? Very rarely can they articulate it word for word or sometimes even get close. And so we need to start with that reality of knowing our why, our true north, and being able to articulate that compelling vision for the future. And in light of COVID, one of the best things you can do for yourself is say proactively, what do I feel called to go after in 2021? What's my goals? What's my priorities? With all of my CEOs, we do a visioning exercise where we say, in 1 year, I will. And they come up with 3 professional statements and 3 personal statements. They write that down in a Google Doc. They share it with me. And now it's real, it's written down, and I get to hold them accountable to it. I get to encourage them. I get to make sure they stay on top of it. And I get to celebrate their progress along the way. We all know the great book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And one of his 7 principles is begin with the end in mind. And when we have that unwavering purpose, that why, that clarity of vision and the values we're going to adhere to, that's what creates our brand. That's what creates our niche. That's our distinction as we go out into the world. And of course, we put a logo and a tagline and some colors around it on our website, but that's what people connect to. And when we have that clear and compelling vision and values, it creates a brand identity. And that brand identity, as we live it out, is people are attracted to it, because it also, if we make good on our vision and values, it communicates a promise that if we make good on that promise each and every time, now loyalty, evangelism, I want to spread the word about this great organization, this great company, this love mark exists, and people connect to it. And all of us on the call have a love mark. I've got a love mark to Delta Airlines. It's all I fly. They're the airline for the CEO. That's one of their taglines. And they take great care of me. And their strategy, their vision is very simple. If we get the CEO, we get everybody else. We get the CEO's employees, we get the CEO's families, we get family vacation. As the CEO goes, so goes the masses. And so they're the airline for the CEO. CVS also has a very clear vision. It's pharmacy. If we get your prescription, we get everything else. We get your makeup, we get your impulse buys, we get your milk that you forgot at the grocery store, we get your cereal, so on and so forth. And if you go to CVS, you'll notice that every CVS has the word pharmacy under it. They spent about $30 million on all their signage to make sure that when you see the word CVS, it says pharmacy underneath it. And if you look at their core vision and values, and I have it here, all right, there's one word that's on here 5 times, and it's pharmacy, pharmacy, pharmacy. They have a multi-billion-dollar company. You can sum up their vision in one word. All right, what's your one word for next year? What's that world making way for you? Because you know where you're going. It starts with why, it begins with the end in mind. What does it look like for you to get away this Q4 and say, yeah, next year probably is going to be just as crazy, right? But I'm going to be resolute in what I'm going after and what I'm all about. Priority number 1 is purpose, right? The second one is people. Now, this one might seem obvious, but the reality is there are no products in the world. There are no products. There are just people selling to people. And you might have a widget in your hand, but it was you that ultimately got them to say yes to that widget, whatever that may be. People are the ones that made your clothes, keep your lights on, built your house, and people are the ones you sell to. Nothing can buy or decide to buy and put money in your hands that doesn't have a direct people component. And so when it comes to people, it's about 2 things. It's about doubling down on health and productivity. And for those of you that have team members, it's really important to think about, how am I upping my consistency and my communication with those that I influence or lead? And this can be internal customers or external customers. And now, the shadow side of health and productivity is toxicity and busyness. Right now, who here wakes up and says, man, I just can't wait to hang out with those toxic people. This is going to be awesome. Nobody does that. We want to hang out with people that have a level of character, a level of chemistry, connection, competency, ability to get the job done. We all know that we are the sum total of our 5 closest friends. And so we need to make sure we're part of the solution, not the problem. And what's interesting, there's been so many surveys done on what people look for in a boss or in an influencer. The number 1 thing overwhelmingly that people look for is consistency, not perfection. And so I'm okay if my boss is a hothead. I'm okay if they blow up from time to time, but I just want to know what they're going to blow up about, and I want them to be consistent about it every time. All right? We are way more hardwired for knowing than we are for perfection. And so we may say we want a perfect boss, but underneath that, what we really want is a consistent one that we know. And in times of chaos, which we're in a pretty chaotic time right now, right? What people want is a sense of security. And that's what we look to our leaders to give. Whether you are a leader of a family or of adult children or of a corporate team, the way that you can bring health and productivity is by increasing your consistency, as well as in your transparency and in your communication. Right? They want to know, yeah, I'm scared. Yeah, I don't know. But they also want to know that you're going to be there and you're going to connect and engage. And so we don't want to be a part of relationships or influencer networks that are toxic or busy. Right? We want to have a level of health and productivity, and we got to be honest about what are we doing to make sure we are on the solution side of that. We know how to do conflict well. We know how to communicate and articulate in a way that's clear. We know how to follow up and execute. and engage people in a way that's healthy and productive. So it's about purpose, all right? You own 2021. Don't let 2021 own you. It's about people. Who's your tribe? Who's your team? Who are you taking with you in the next year that can help you grow and get better? What does that look like for you? The third priority is pace. Right now, this has fallen off the cliff for most people these last 6 months. We've been at a haphazard and at times maybe even a horrendous pace, because that's what fear does. We either are in a level of paralysis analysis on one end of the spectrum, or we're hurried and harried on the other end of the spectrum. Right? But great leaders don't get frazzled easily. Right? Their inner world is greater than the outer demands that are out there. And so they're able to keep a level of consistent pace. Pace is about sustainability and scalability. And so we have to ask ourselves, how is our energy? How is our fuel in the tank? Remember that after 10 hours of work, your productivity decreases by 10% each and every 30 minutes after that. And so at 10-hour days, you're best just to shut it down. Go watch Netflix, have a glass of wine, and pick it up the next morning. Too often we overwork and we forget that every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. And the work we're doing is busyness, not true productivity. Way best to leave it, take care of ourselves, and get up fresh and ready to go the next morning. I've been working with so many CEOs saying, listen, be smart about your Q4 pace. Guess what? Regardless of COVID and regardless of the election, Thanksgiving's coming and family's coming and Christmas is coming. And it's going to be just as crazy as it was in 2019, 2008. You're still going to have to go buy presents. You're still going to have to put up that Christmas tree. And so now is the time to think through, what does rest and recalibration look like for you so that you actually have your batteries charged come January? Because it's a Q1 new fiscal year, whether you like it or not. And so great leaders are already thinking about, how do we finish well? What truly needs my attention over the next 2.5 months, and what can wait? And so what does it look like for me to get away, to strategize, to reflect, maybe by myself or with my team? And then what are the ways that I can work smarter, not harder, for next year? Right? If it's a new president or even the same president, as a vaccine does or doesn't come out, nobody knows what the economy is going to do. You have the opportunity to set your pace, to decide what those disciplines, those routines are going to be, and to lead yourself well as it relates to others. One of the best gifts you can give your team when there's especially a lot of chaos going on, which we have right now, is discipline. All right. How do you fight chaos? You actually up the discipline. It's why our military is the most disciplined of all the different organizations in America. It's because there's nothing more chaotic than war. And so when there is a battle out there, we don't fight it with worry, anxiety, indulgence, wondering. We fight it by upping our game as it relates to predictable patterns and discipline. All right, predictability is the best remedy for chaos. And the reason for that is because we're hardwired for it. All right, who here on the call, raise your hand, woke up at 3 a.m., freaked out whether or not the sun was going to come up? All right, who did that? Nobody. No one's ever done that. That's crazy. Right? It's because we're hardwired for predictability. We know that every day there's a sun and there's a moon. We know every season it's going to get colder and then it's going to get warmer again. And that predictability is what keeps us that's what keeps us in check. And when all of us are on the wagon in terms of eating well, routine, workout, schedule, what goes up? Right? All of our positive psychological mindset goes up. And so pace is such a big deal. And to get a handle on your pace, how are you going to scale? What does sustainability look like? Helps you connect and grow to that next level. The fourth priority is perception. And this is about being open to new ideas and new possibilities. And everybody has been thinking about innovating. This call is probably a product of good innovation. I'm sure that, maybe Pilbo was thinking, yeah, we're going to do these monthly and they're going to be in person. They're going to be at the Bunnell Foundation. They got that great facility. That's what we're going to do. But what do we have to do? Well, we had to innovate. We have to say, all right, thank God for technology. We're going to take these workshops and webinars online, and we're going to pivot in that way. And so when it comes to perception and innovation, it's about always being open to new ideas and possibilities and trying and experimenting with things in ways that are lightweight, low maintenance. Too often we do two big missteps when it comes to innovation. Number one is we abandon our core. We abandon our core. There's a great book I encourage you to read called Profit from the Core. And too often we innovate in such a way that we lose sight of the thing that is making us money in the first place. We always need to keep the main thing the priority. If you guys remember famously when Steve Jobs got up to introduce the iPad, the first thing he said is, before I talk about the iPad, I'm going to talk for 20 minutes about the new iPhone, because everyone in this room needs to know the iPhone is not going away. Because he knew that was where the profitability was coming from. That was the core that was actually in excess, was funding at the time the new MacBooks, the iPad, and iTunes. And so it's this reality of keeping the core. In light of the core, the second thing you need to do is you need to pilot ideas and opportunities in a way that's safe, lightweight, and low maintenance. Don't spend a lot of money, don't do a lot of work, and find safe places to give it a try. Oftentimes when we're onboarding new coaches, the first thing I say is just start coaching for free. Get a group of people, one or two people, and just coach them for free. You'll find out right away whether or not you've got the chops for this, whether people listen to you, how nervous you are. Failing faster in a way that's safe, lightweight, and low maintenance is the best way to innovate and pivot while still keeping your core. And then you grow that new revenue stream, you grow that new idea one step at a time. And remember, it's usually slow at first and then fast later on. One of the things I remind innovators is don't overestimate what you can do in a year. Most people way overestimate what they can do in a year, which leaves them consistently frustrated. But at the same time, don't underestimate what you can accomplish in 3 years. Most of us look back and see where we were in 2017, and it's night and day. And so oftentimes we just don't have a long enough view to give us the grace and runway to see the progress that we're making year in and year out. That's why it's most beneficial when it comes to strategy to have as clear as possible 1-year plan. We're all these kind of instant iPhone, instant feedback, microwave culture, when in reality it takes a lot of slow to grow. And so we have to have that strategic mindset, that long-term vision that we just keep consistently marching towards. And the same is true with ideas and innovation. A couple key perspectives and insights. All right, the last priority, the foundational priority, we know this one well, it's profits. It's dollars and cents. And in times of crisis, it's all about cash on hand. It's about conserving cash on hand, because when, money is never the future. You never want to say, hey, come work with me. I'm hoping to make a lot of money, right? No one's interested in putting money in your pocket. That is not a compelling vision. That is not an exciting future, right? So profits are not your future, but they are your fuel, right? You can't run out of fuel, right? When you talk to someone about your vacation, you say, what do you say? You say, hey, I'm going to Disney World. Right? That's awesome. That's awesome. But you need fuel to get there. You don't say, hey, I'm going to Toyota. No, that's just what's getting you there. The Tahoe is just what's getting you there, whatever it may be. What you're excited about is the vision. And so in times of crisis, managing money is as much about cash on hand or access to cash than anything else. And so it's shoring up. It may not sound very kind of Dave Ramsey-ish if you aspire to, Dave Ramsey, but, if you need a new couch, do that, 12 months, same as cash, right? Keep that money in your savings. You can always sell or return the couch if you need to. And so that's where the profitability is really about ownership and accuracy. And this is where transparency can really come into play. Most CEOs I work with do not share enough information with their employees. What do employees want in times of crisis? They want a sense of safety and security. My job is safe. My financial house is secure. And so if you can give more information, it doesn't have to be the whole kit and caboodle. Don't give them the QuickBooks password, to make them feel, hey, absolutely, we got PPP money. We're going to be fine through the end of the year. We're actually up 2%. We're breaking even. We're doing okay. But people need and want to hear that. And so when it comes to profitability, you need to make sure your house is in order and your money is accurate. You accurately know where you can get cash if you need it. And in light of that accuracy, you're facilitating ownership within your organization by letting them in, being authentic and transparent with where you're at. And that includes your kids, right? Most kids 10 and above, they understand COVID. They understand this isn't good. They understand we didn't take the vacation we used to. All right, they're smarter than you think. And so what a great opportunity to say, hey, here's how we're stewarding our finances. This is how things look, and we're going to be okay. And here's the behaviors and actions. And now we need you to own that. We need you to stop complaining about not taking a spring break or fall break trip, right? So even at the family level, I hope you see all the applications here. I'm not sure, all the background of everyone on the call, if it's big corporations or whatnot, but hopefully we're giving enough examples where you can see the power and the application as we walk through these 5 priorities. All right, so everything is built around these 5 priorities. In a perfect world, which is absolutely durable. We want living examples, not necessarily perfect examples. All right, this is the order of your 5 priorities. All right, I live with a clear and compelling vision. I find people to work with me that are also bought into that vision, because if they're bought into that vision, that means they're going to stick with me through the good times and the bad times. I have a marathon mentality. I'm not going to sprint and burn out and blow up. I can see that 3-year vision that's going to get through this pandemic that we're in. I'm open to new ideas and new innovations. I perceive the world as opportunistic and with ideas and creativity go after. And my house is in order. Now, what happens when we start putting these 5 priorities in a different order? What happens when you put pace over people? Now you're using, abusing, you're running over people. What happens when you put profit over purpose, right? Well, now I'm just spending money. I'm chasing any new shiny object. I'm getting out of what I call my umbrella of grace or my umbrella of gifting. And I'm chasing things that I'm not good at out of maybe fear or insecurity. All right. There's a lot of people, when they're not careful, they get these priorities, these capitals in the wrong order. And it creates all sorts of chaos for their own life as leaders, as well as the organizations they lead. Because you've been a part of those organizations where the CEO, the leader, talks a good game, but it's all about the bottom line. Or you've been in those organizations where the pace is so hectic, it tanks the culture. And now it's this sense of, beatings will continue until morale improves. And now instead of health and positivity, it's negativity and it's cynicism. And the first thing that go out the door is engagement and care. And now it's cynicism and apathy. And so that's why, yes, technology is important and work harder and do I pivot, all those questions we started with. But one of the key kind of secret sauces is to think through these 5 priorities. And in light of these priorities, order and align them in a way that sets you up for every success going into 2021. Now, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Rome certainly wasn't built in a day. Right? You got to double down and you need to do the hard work and say, what are our goals and priorities for 2021? Where do we want to be? How do we align and communicate well with our team and get them on the same page? What kind of pace do we need to set, both Q4 and Q1 of next year? How do we obtain or hold together our core products and services while potentially pivoting into new ideas and new possibilities? And how do we communicate well to make sure our employees know that, we're not asleep at the wheel when it comes to finances and profitability? Too often, businesses either have a blind spot in these 5 areas or they put them in the wrong order. And it, at the very least, creates a glass ceiling for the potential of that organization, or at the very most, creates declining consequences over time. And that's why I started with some of those examples. Some of the best brands have these priorities in order. Many, some locally, some nationally that we've worked with. You know, Nike's vision to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Okay, we a few more here. I might just click through. You know, Chick-fil-A, being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us each and every day. Disney, right? Some of you entertain and inspire people through the power of unparalleled stories. They updated their vision statement with Bob Iger in 2004, and he says, this is going to be our guiding purpose. And if we do this, we will hook the right people at the right time in the right ways that'll take care of our shareholders' expectation. He just clicked right on through those five priorities. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. Where we get screwed up is we don't think about these five, or we put these five in the wrong order. And I'd love for you to just take a second to think about which one of these for me is a natural strength. Maybe you're great with people. It's one of your gifts. You take care of people. You're aware of that consistency and good communication that's needed. You know, which one of these five is your biggest strength? Are there a couple that, yeah, you think about, I think about pace and working out, but it's kind of mediocre. And then is there one that's a bit of a blind spot? You're like, yeah, you know what? I've not thought about 2021 end in mind vision priorities at all. And I'm not sure I would have started thinking about it till January 1 if I hadn't attended this workshop. So why don't you just take a second, we're gonna give it maybe a little awkward silence on the workshop, that's okay, to just say, you know, what's my biggest strength? Which of these are kind of a little mediocre? And then is there a weakness or a blind spot that this highlights and or identifies that now I'm aware of and I can get better? All right, so hopefully that kind of gets your wheels turning. Hopefully that even creates some homework, saying I'm going to take this deeper. Maybe I'm going to work through this exercise even with my team or with a colleague or a friend. I'm going to go ahead and put some of the things that I've shared. I'll send those to Kim. We can, all the handouts I shared, we're happy to give away to you and to utilize with your team. But I want to give just a couple thoughts as we wrap up. Then we're going to move into some Q&A. Would love to field any questions you have on all of these, and in doing that. And I want to give just a couple thoughts in light of COVID. Just take it a little deeper in these five priorities. So for purpose, the word is clarity. All right, getting away, thinking about where do you want to go? What do you want to get after in 2021? Again, I love that phrase. I'm going to say it again. The world makes way for the man who knows where they're going. It's absolutely true. Those who are proactive and pioneering oftentimes persevere to see the greatest result. And here's the deal. Clarity only comes by creating space. You can't work your way to clarity. You can't read your way to clarity. There's a reason why the best ideas come in the shower, because it's the only time your brain has to wander and think and actually kind of take what's in the unconscious to the conscious. A Harvard Business Review had that great article called The Shower Principle. I'm sure many of you have read it, that talks about how we do not create the space as leaders to come up with the ideas and insight that our employees and our organizations so desperately need. Right? Revelation only happens on retreat. You got to get away. That's when the clarity, that's when the insight, that's when the ideas come. And that's why we've got this beach. Take advantage of it to gain that clarity on a consistent basis. All right, second key piece is mobilize your workforce. When things are difficult, people want to feel connected. They want to feel part of a tribe more than ever. And so increase the level of action and engagement. Texting, getting together, grabbing a coffee, how are you doing? Here's the update. And oftentimes people need specific tasks to keep them out of Facebook and off of CNN. And so increase the frequency that you check in, that you give people things to do, that you follow up. That'll help them stay positive, proactive, and focus. For pace, it's about predictable patterns. I said it before. We fight chaos with discipline. What's your 2021 discipline plan? Very few people do discipline well over the long term without good community and accountability. There's a few things we can all do well on our own. We put in our 10,000 hours, but this is where people and pace can come together, right? So working out with someone, having someone help you, hold you accountable, whatever it may be, all that can be super helpful. We've got fantastic coaches that help with stress, help with difficulties, to help get to that reactive to proactive. Holly Cerviti is on the call, one of our best executive coaches. So many different people that can help you in this area of confusion and crisis, moving to positive and proactive. When it comes to perception, try some pilots. I'm trying all my clients, I'm saying, what are 3 pilots we can do next year that's safe, lightweight, low maintenance, and doesn't sacrifice the core? Try some new things. I tell you, you can get away with so much in the name of COVID. It's amazing. I've gotten out of seeing my mother-in-law thanks to COVID. I've gotten rid of some people that we needed to get rid of, thanks to COVID. It's amazing. We're trying some new things thanks to COVID. I mean, you can blame so much on that C word. It's just awesome. So take advantage of it. Try some new things. Gosh, why are you doing that? Well, COVID. Oh yeah. Oh, I get it. It's just amazing. It just plays so well. And then just remember, profitability. It's about cash on hand. And then the second thing I'll say there is the biggest way to fight fear and anxiety around money is to be generous, is to bless someone else that's less fortunate to you. And we've got the holidays coming up. Thanksgiving is about, being grateful, being thankful, helping those in need. Same with the Christmas holiday season, giving it away. And there's an opportunity to kind of flip the script a bit as it relates to generosity, as well as good stewardship, that cash on hand. So I hope you see how important these 5 priorities are. And I hope you see how important the order is, and how if we can't afford to get the next year right, we can't afford to not think through these 5 areas and to create the space to do the hard work and to get them right going into 21, because all of us are in industries that have competition. And I don't know about you, but I want to be at the front of the pack. I want to be at the top of the line, because you know what? There might be a 10% of every industry that may not make it. I hope that's not the case. I hope we have a quick economic turnaround. I hope that it's a great next 5-year run. But I certainly know that I want to be far from that bottom 2%, 5%, whatever it may be. And we have seen with the people we've worked with, and we know to be true, that aligning and getting clarity around these 5 areas allows you to do just that, to be at the top. And so I want to pause and just put in the chat. I want to open up for any comments or questions. We'll do maybe 5-8 minutes of Q&A. And then I got a final thought and a next step I want to share for anybody that would like to engage these 5 priorities a little deeper. All right, so any comments or questions? Appreciate Kathy's and Troy's and Holly's and Eric's comments there. Awesome to see that, we've got some places to grow and get better. That's the whole point of this, to kind of reveal and realize where we're at and how we can grow and get better. Any comments or questions before as we wrap up today? I know I didn't do that well.
There's one question here, Brandon, from Eric. How do you get a biz owner to come to the table on this? How do you fight the dynamic of, I would love to do, but I don't have time?
Great question. Cheap excuse, but fair enough. Because it's funny, I get that I get that all the time. Oh, I don't know if I have time. And what's funny is I say, you know what though? But if I showed up with donuts, you just found 10 minutes. Right? Isn't that interesting? I show up with donuts, you just found 10 minutes. How convenient. And so what they're really saying when they say, I don't have time, is what they're really saying is, I don't know if it's worth my time. That's what they're really saying. Whenever you sell something, people unconsciously are asking the questions, do I believe you? Do I trust you? And can you help me right now? So whether you're in real estate, whether you're in the faith-based space, whatever marketing, whatever you're in, whenever you're pitching a prospect, they are asking those three questions. Do I believe you? Do I trust you? And do I think you can help me right now? And if you can answer those three questions in your approach and the way you engage, 9 times out of 10, they will ask or they will look for a next step with you. And so when someone says, I don't have time, they're saying, I don't know if I believe you. I don't know if I trust you, usually. And so what I usually do, and you remember, you're going to get this one pager. Kim's going to send it out. It's yours to use. Is I'll do the same exercise I did with you, right? Begin with, kind of confront the brutal facts with an unwavering hope of the future. So I work with a lot of people. I just say, I'm going to walk you through these 5 essentials, and you just circle your strengths, right? Put a mark through your mediocres and put an X through your weaknesses. And in doing that, they've just told me where the organization needs to get better. All right. And then usually what I'll say, and if I think there's going to be a time issue, I'll say, listen, if I can find a way to help significantly add value in your areas of weakness and blind spot, would you find the time? Or sometimes I'll even frame another way. I'll say, how much time would you be willing to give me? Would you give me 2 hours a month? Would you give me 4 hours a month? If I can significantly move the dial. So I'm asking you to trust me. I'm trying to answer that trust question. All right. And if I could even come in with 30 more minutes to give you examples of how we can significantly move the dial to get this from a yellow light to a green light, would that get you over the line? And usually they say yes, but you know what's coming? The but question. What's that? How much is it going to cost me? Right. And usually I'll say, well, let's not talk about cost. I'll come back. I'll walk you through some things I think will significantly move the dial. And then you tell me, or we'll talk about how much this improvement might potentially be worth to your bottom line and to your organization. So that'd be a little perspective, a little approach on how to answer that. But for all of us on the call, just know when you're trying to close the deal, those are the 3 questions we're all asking. And when someone pitches you, now you'll all do this, right? Now, when someone pitches you something, hey, buy Mary Kay or Corvette or whatever it may be, all right, you're asking those 3 questions, right? And sometimes you look at that Corvette and you say, that can't help me now. I don't need a Corvette. I just need a reliable car, for example.
Brandon, Holly gave us a question. Do people make excuses because they are too overwhelmed to address the bigger picture and their own weaknesses?
It can be. It can be that you haven't quite hit the nail on the head of what's really going on underneath the surface. And so they're not saying no to this. They're saying no to this down here. And that's fair enough. We got to hope that, that bubbles up or the pain is big or great enough to where they see you as someone they believe can actually provide that solution, for example.
Kathy's asking, in a challenging job market, how do you position yourself now that so much of the interview process is online?
Great question. The younger and younger generations, they want to work for a place that walks the talk. And, they watch their boomer parents work hard only to die of a heart attack or to lose it all in 2008. And so a couple things that I recommend is make sure you lead with purpose. Here's who we are. This is what we're all about. This is the good we bring in the community. It's not just about a warm body that can make us more money. The younger generation sniffs that out, and your rising leaders aren't going to waste their time with a place that's just going to use and abuse them. I was interviewing a senior graphic design student from Coastal Carolina for one of our intern positions. And I was walking through the job description, the expectations, and she says, okay, so if I invest in you and knock all these things out of the park, how are you going to invest in me? Right? What a great question, right? What a confident gal. I was super impressed because she had 5 offers for an internship, right? So if I'm going to invest in you, how are you going to invest in me? This younger generation, they don't want a boss. They want a coach, right? Develop me, make me better. So lead with that compelling vision and values. This is what we're all about. It's way bigger than just the bottom line. And then what I've been doing with a lot of interviews is I have a group interview on the call. So it's me and my colleagues, and they can see some of the chemistry and the interaction. Don't just do the one-on-one. How boring. You're boring. Okay. You're really not, but right. So if you have multiple people on the call in a way that's not intimidating, but more group oriented, there's a way that you can transfer chemistry over the cyberspace. And one of those ways is to have multiple people around the table, even if they're zooming in, than just the one-on-one interview, for example. Great question.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Brandon. Didn't mean to go over you. Go ahead.
That's all right. All right. Well, feel free to put any more questions in the chat. I do want to wrap up. In the spirit of generosity, we have created a 50-question data-driven assessment called the Prioritized Leader. And all of you did a subjective analysis of where you land in these 5 areas. Well, by answering 50 questions, you get a lengthy report that has 6 different sections. And this report tells you, based on your answers of those 50 questions, what your order is of the 5 priorities, what you're putting first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and why. And then it gives you a health check. It gives you a red, yellow, green light in all 5 of the areas. It pulls forward your low scores so you can process and look at what you scored low and why you scored low. And then it ends with an action plan. And myself and the 5 Capitals team would love to offer a free assessment to anybody that wants to take it, absolutely 0 obligation, as well as a free debrief session. And so we all like that subjective side, but what we find with leaders is they're either way too easy on themselves or they're way too hard on themselves. And so we created the Prioritized Leader Assessment to be that data-driven approach for leaders and teams, so that they can get a more honest assessment of where they're at, where their strengths, weaknesses, and blind spots are, and where they need to grow. And so you can email Kim, and I'm happy to just run it all through Pilba. That's fine. This is my contact information. I'm here in Litchfield Country Club and work out of the Business Center across from Sonic. But happy to do that free assessment and debrief for anyone who's interested in the Prioritized Leader Assessment. So Holly and myself and other coaches are here in the area. We've got a stake in the ground of seeing this place and business leaders continue to grow. And if this framework and assessment, a little conversation can help just even with community building and get you ready for a great 2021, we absolutely want to do it. So you can go to 5capitals.net, my email's there, or just connect with Kim. We'll get you this 1-pager. And again, 0 pressure. If you're interested in taking that assessment and debriefing with a coach, we're more than happy to do that as a fellow local company headquartered here in Polly's.
Okay.
So,
is there any other questions?
No questions, but thank you very much, Brandon. That was phenomenal.
Great.
Really appreciate it.
good stuff, David. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Well, I want to thank everybody, and especially Brandon, for taking the time and the energy to share with us today. And please feel free to reach out to Brandon directly or email joinpilba@gmail.com if you're interested in getting the assessment. And Brandon, I think you sent me that pager, so I'll make sure to email it out to everybody that's on the call that you used today in your presentation. And we will be posting this session on our YouTube channel, and we'll make sure to post it on our Facebook page so that if you do want to look at it again, it'll be there for you. Also want to just make an announcement that our next Zoom meeting will be how adding an e-commerce side to your business can enhance your profitability. And that will be with Jane Silverman of the Conway Innovation Center. The date of that is Wednesday, October 28th. So if you'll mark your calendars at 2 o'clock, same time as we did today. And we will be sending out some detailed information about that session. So October 28th at 2 p.m. on e-commerce. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all. Everybody have a great afternoon. And Brandon, thanks again.
Thanks,
Well,
Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon. Bye-bye.
Talk to you guys soon. Thanks.